أهلا وسهلا فيكم. رح نبلش.
Welcome. We will start our special session on ensuring sustainable and at-scale engagement of adolescents and youth in the Arab region. I would like to welcome all the speakers, all the participants, and everyone who will share their experiences with us. There is 60% of the people in the Arab region are under 30 years old, and as we know, the youth have a lot of energy. They always have new ideas, motivation, and have the sense of initiative. This is why their participation and engagement are essential for sustainable development, for sustainable environment, and for the efficient use of technology. Unfortunately, in this region, we're not able to completely benefit from the potential and energy of the youth. Sometimes there are tough circumstances that don't help them to get to the production phase where they can enjoy learning opportunities, where they can achieve their ambitions, their dreams. And many times they face big challenges and they're marginalized at the economic and social level, in addition to all the political problems that they could face as well. At the same time, the engagement and commitment of the youth in the decision making is considered as a priority and a right that they have. Through supporting the adolescents and the youth, around 1 million young men and women were able to participate in different activities of the social society in the Arab region. However, this is not enough. We always need more efforts to be made so that we can empower and enable the youth in this region. Based on empowering people in order to have sustainable and inclusive development. In this session, we want to promote dialogue with the youth, especially the youth that sometimes cannot voice their demands and what they want. We also have the officials that represent the ministries that are entrusted with setting up the policies for the youth and the adolescents. In this session, we will have many speakers. First of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Fuad Laoune, Director General of the Youth Observatory from the Ministry of Youth in Tunisia. Welcome. I would like also to welcome Tahaziz Maslah, an activist in NetMed Youth and Director of Tunisian Program for Equality. And we also have with us Mohammed Kallaji, who is an activist in the Participatory Activist Research, PAR, with the other youth from the MENA region. Now I would like to welcome the ladies. We have Hajar Abyad. You are representing YP from Egypt. Welcome. And allow me as well to welcome Hiba Ghandour. You are a student in medicine and you are in charge of the relationships between the students and international organizations. Before starting our dialogue and before starting with the speakers, we will be watching a video that is actually a message by Jayatma Vikarayamaki, the UN envoy. So let's listen all together to her message.
ايه لا
برمناها 100 مرة ما كنت عم
By improving access to quality education,
the United Nations Youth Strategy. Youth 2030 is the first document of its kind, and it aims to ensure that young people can participate meaningfully and take a seat at every decision that's being made about their lives and their futures. Today, I would like to remind all of you gathered here that our voice matters. We have access to the resources and knowledge that is needed to be the leaders and to make a positive difference in today's world. Only by involving young people meaningfully, our world will be able to achieve sustainable development by 2030. The Arab Forum for Sustainable Development is your opportunity and your platform to amplify your voices, to look at the Sustainable Development Goals, monitor, review, and reflect on how you think that they are being implemented so far and what your recommendations are for the better implementation of those goals in the future to create a better, inclusive, safer, just, and peaceful place for everyone. I wish you every success in your meeting and thank you for your valuable contributions.
بعد هالكلمة فعلا موحية واللي عن جد تعطينا
After this inspiring speech for us as youth, now I would like to start with Abdulaziz Mislah. Welcome once again. I would like to remind everyone that you're an activist in NetMed Youth and you are a program manager in the Social Equality Association in Tunisia, and you have a master's degree in business management and strategy, and you have also continued your studies in European economics, and you have a BA from the College of Europe. The floor is yours. Please tell us a little bit about your experience in Tunisia, the challenges that you have faced. You know what you want to say. I will not ask you a lot of questions. I'll be speaking in English. I would like to thank you. I would like to thank the ESCWA for having invited us. Certainly in the domains where I have worked, it was always about the youth policies. I had also an experience that I shared with the NetMed youth, and the challenge for me, beside the other challenges regarding the inclusion of the youth, was from the point of view of education. And I started reflecting about this. This is why I would like to start with some issues regarding youth inclusion. Is it about economic, social, or political inclusion, or what exactly? So I will try to speak in my intervention about 4 elements. I will start with the educational system reform, then identity, language, then local democracy and decentralization, and finally the public sector versus private sector and marginalization. So I will start with the reform of the educational system. I think we need to solve this crisis, if I may consider it as a crisis. And here we have 3 main components. First of all, self-confidence at the individual level and also about the belonging to our culture and civilization. Second, it's the issue of values. And the third, the competencies that allow the individual to continue their studies at university, not just as recipients or as having demands, but as a student who is also searching for knowledge. And this is something essential at the pedagogical level since the beginning, not just at the level of the higher education, but also at the basic and primary educational level. So this is a big debate now in Tunisia, because we have this discussion of quality education and quality teachers. And I will speak also later on about the private sector, public sector, and marginalization. But here, I would like to speak a little bit about the reform of the educational system that I think will enable the students to go towards more innovation and to become producers, not just imitate or repeat the same experiences that were done by the foreigners. So we need to give the youth access to life so that they don't just pass the exams, but they can use what they learn in life. There are also other means that they can use. And finally, we will have more youth. We won't have more youth that are just demanding jobs. They're finding themselves these jobs, that are inventing these jobs. And we will have everyone also helping them, the institution, the state, and the individuals, the students themselves. In Tunisia, we think that the professional training is for the people, or the vocational training is for people who did not have the capacities to study the academic curriculum. And here, for me, the solution is to integrate the vocational training and the orientation grid and review the idea of vocational training and how to get there, and also give a clear image of the economic situation in Tunisia, which will enable any young person to decide what they want to do, and then no one will tell them you don't have the necessary capacities, you can't go to university, or you can't become a researcher, and this is why you need to go to the vocation training. No, to be successful, you don't have to be a doctor, you don't have to be a physician or just a researcher. And here I have also two examples with me. The first one goes back to the 90s when Ben Ali declared or appointed a Minister of Education that said that in the first secondary cycle, the studies won't be in Arabic, but in French. The scientific courses will be in French and not in Arabic. And of course, he has his reasons to do that, but it is also a negative message for the youth, saying that for them, their mother tongue does not have the necessary capacities, not even at the level of the secondary cycle. So every young person considered this, or considered their language as being incomplete because of this. So this is why we think that we're always dependent. We don't have maybe a culture that is rich enough to be able to control or to master all these scientific courses. And this has manipulated the confidence that the youth had in themselves and their language and in their culture. In October 2016, and this is my second example, a Minister of Education, Naji Jalloul, proposed the English language to become the second language, the second official language in the country. And here the French ambassador in Tunisia asked him to explain his choices, and then the Tunisian government reaffirmed and reconfirmed that the French language will always be the second official language in the country. Why am I speaking about this? Why am I giving these examples? Because for every young person, we have the questions about who decides what, who is governing. And this is an identity question that explains the relationship between the youth and their country. And then the young persons who will not see the importance of being included in decision-making, and they're not interested in decision-making in their country because they already know that they're dependent through such messages as the examples that I just mentioned. And they're quite explicit. And here I would like to insist on another point. Now I'm speaking in French, not because I don't want. to speak in Arabic, it's because I know that there are many Arabs that do not understand Arabic. And when we speak about identity, when we speak about language, when we speak about the Arabic language, this doesn't mean that we shouldn't be open to other cultures or to other languages. Let me go to local democracy and decentralization. We see in Tunisia that the universities that are well renowned are in the capital or in the suburbs around the capital because the infrastructure is there, because the teachers are there, so there is the necessary staff, and there is the opportunity for any young person to access the higher education studies and to be interested in them. So we have the capital and the suburbs that are enjoying that, but when we go to the other areas that are outside the capital, then there are wide disparities. And this is something that we maybe share with other Arab countries, but in Tunisia we have started working on that after the municipal elections that happened last year. And here we have the question of resource sharing and equal distribution. And this is also related to the inclusion of the youth that are in these areas from the perspective of education. 4, public sector versus private sector and marginalization. We have this tendency now in Tunisia of seeing private schools, private universities, private institutes, and what frustrates me is that, now of course, allow me to say that we have a good quality of services in the primary schools and in the public schools. But now there are some people that are more interested in sending their students to the private schools and not the public schools because they started seeing the degradation of the quality in the public sector and the public schools. So what frustrates me is that one day maybe a young person will be asked, do you come from a private sector or public sector? If they come from the private sector, they will right away start the interview for the job. But if they're from the public sector, maybe not. So this is reinforcing marginalization. This is leading to more marginalization. You want me to go quicker? Okay. So here I reach my last point anyway. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this. I know this is a commercial activity. Everyone is doing this. But we need to review the educational system. We need to see the means that are given to the public schools and the public universities to try and re-give the people who do not have the means the opportunity to having good education or quality education. I'm evoking all of this so that we can give the youth, or so that we can prepare a generation of youth that won't be just trying to be included, but that will decide themselves of where they want to be, and they will position themselves among the decision makers. We don't want any more people that are deciding for us or on behalf of the youth. This is how the future of the youth should be. It's up to them to choose and to decide for their future. We can prepare a generation that will have the necessary capacities and means in order to decide for their future. Thank you. Thank you very much, Abdelaziz. Thank you for your intervention. Of course, we will have questions for you by the end of this session, especially after the presentations of the speakers. Now we will be with Mr. Muhammad Kallaji. You are an activist in participatory research in the MENA region. You will be specifically tackling the issue of migration and refugees. You're 22 years old. you're Syrian and you live in Lebanon and Baalbek region. And you are currently studying law in the Islamic University in Lebanon. You're also an activist in the participative research with the youth from the MENA region. And you're also an advocate for awareness raising about unemployment among youth. The floor is yours, sir. First of all, I would like to start with defining what a refugee is. Based on Convention of 1951, the refugee is any person that is outside the country of his or her nationality because they're afraid of being persecuted based on their race, religion, nationality, or belonging to a specific category, or because of their political opinions. And so the refugee is not protected anymore by their country or do not desire to stay there anymore because of all these fears. We're seeing a lot of violations against the human beings. We're seeing a lot of disasters that are pushing people to leave their countries more than before. And there are more than 60 million persons, half of them are children, who ran away from persecution and poverty. And there are a lot of migrants that are just searching for livelihoods. But it's not just a crisis of figures. It's a crisis of solidarity because 90% of refugees are hosted by developing countries. And 8 countries are hosting more than most of the refugees of the world. And a big budget of the United Nations is actually allocated to reduce the plight of these refugees. And there won't be a crisis that big for these countries in case the responsibility is equally shared. Despite all of that, we see a lot of fear. We see a lot of ignorance facing the aids and the assistance for these refugees. We need to recognize our shared humanity. There are many persons, many migrants, many refugees that are facing great plights. Thousands of people actually have died because they were searching for a better country. They're searching for development, and they need to face discrimination and to face fanaticism. It is also essential to implement the Convention of 1951 based on the principle of non-refoulement that confirms that refugees shouldn't be sent back to the countries that they came from against their will, of course. Now, about the refugees, based on the observations of civil society. In 2017, I participated in this research with people from the MENA region, and I did this through the UNICEF. I trained with young people from Syria and Lebanon on the tools of participatory research based on the tree analysis and different debates and discussions. After the training, we went onto the field and we started a campaign called Ilmi Alami, My Education is My Flag. And I succeeded with many young people in conveying the messages of the young persons who are trying to find job opportunities. This campaign was really successful. Through the social media, we were supported by more than 3,000 persons. And until today, this campaign is still ongoing. Through this campaign, I gained an experience in engaging with civil society. Although I didn't expect to have this opportunity being a refugee in the country. However, I had this opportunity, so I gained a lot of this experience, and this made me more determined to reach change among the youth. Now, at the personal level, I gained a lot of experiences that were good for me in my specialization in law. Thank you.
رح حابة بعد أعرف
I would like to know more about a few things, especially that you're a refugee and you went through this process. So I have a few questions for you before I go to another, I switch to another speaker. How did you feel once you had this opportunity to advocate for the rights of other youth? What should be changed so that we're able to help the other young persons, especially the refugees in our country and in other countries as well? In your opinion, how can they also have these opportunities at the level of policies, activities, at the international or the local level? Through such conferences, through similar activities, you can give a role to the youth so that they can be engaged in the different activities. And also the leaders should reduce the hatred speech against foreigners and expats. Then the youth will have more opportunities for participation and engagement without fearing anything. Thank you. I actually congratulate on what you are doing, because I know it's difficult to be in a country that is not yours, to be activist and to try and help other young people, just like Abdelaziz in Tunisia, who was voicing the demands of the youth. So we greet and salute all the youth trying to do that. And now I would like to move to Hajar Abyad. I think you have a presentation. And now I will introduce you. You are representing YPIR from Egypt. You are a student in agriculture from Al-Ana in Egypt. You are an activist in different associations and organizations. And you represented YPIR and the UNFPA in the Youth Forum in Morocco in 2018. The floor is yours. Thank you. Please use the microphone. She is distant from the microphone.
So, I am from Egypt. Salam to you, peace be upon you. And since we are going to talk about the youth, of course, the youth is an important stage in every individual's life. And since we're talking about ensuring the sustainable engagement of adolescents and youth in the Arab region, then I must talk about the importance of guaranteeing sustainable and large-scale youth engagement. Let me talk to you first about YPIR and what it does. So let me start before the presentation is put up on the screen. So YPIR is an initiative that was launched in 2002 internationally by the UNFPA, and then Egypt joined it in 2005. It covered 250 national organizations and associations in Egypt in order to guarantee as much youth participation in their local communities as much as possible. Now let's discuss what YPIR does in Egypt. First, let me explain to you about the presence of YPIR around the world. So it has presence in Asia Pacific, Eastern Europe as well. And then let's talk about the work of YPIR in Egypt. So the network of YPIR exists in 33 provinces across the country, and by the end of the year, it will reach more governorates. So 23 governorate now and 27 by the end of the year. So what does YPIR do? It actually do peer education. So what is a peer, or who is the peer? It is the person who comes from my gender, my religion, and who has my same background. So education, peer education. After we do the peer education, we allow those peers or those young people to convey that training that they received to those people, other people in society and in community. So what is special about YPeer is the following: the techniques used to convey the information. We work with the young people, so we will not so we will not be able to use simple presentations with the young people. So what we do is engage them in sports activities. We did that in coordination with the Ministry for the Youth and Sports in Egypt. We have two sports projects. One of them is with the refugees, and the other is with the Ministry of the Youth and Sports. That is so YPR Egypt adopted some training guidebooks in collaboration with UNICEF and the National Women's Council and the UNFPA, in addition to other agencies that help in drafting and writing those guidebooks. What is the structure like of YPR? It's not a hierarchy. However, our structure is in the form of a circle. So all of us, so we are peer educators, and then we start moving up the ladder according to our specialization. First of all, peer educators, and then we train the national trainers, and then we do a specialized training of trainers, and then advanced training of trainers. We cover a number of topics. So let me share with you some figures. As I said, we have a presence in 23 governorates, and by the end of the year, we will be present in 27 governorates. We have a National Consultative Council that consists of 150 people, and there are 7 people in charge of national coordination at the level of the country. And we have around 45,000 peer educators across the country. And the trainers across the countries are estimated at 450. Now, on the SDGs. As a network, we're very interested in SDGs. We have chosen or selected 4 goals. Those are some of the most important goals that's covered by this forum. These are some of the guidebooks that we published in collaboration with other agencies. Here are also, you see also examples of collaborations with UNICEF, UNPA, the Swedish Embassy, the Saudi Embassy, and MTV. Here you see some statistics on campaigns launched by YPR in Egypt. This goes back or dates back to a campaign launched in 2017. What we did lately is many camps across the country, training camps, in order to raise the awareness of the young people about population growth, because as you know, in Egypt there is a great growth population. So we're working with the youth about the reproductive health issues. Also, we did 23 interactive workshops that would convey that same message about awareness, but using theater and drama and so on. These are some of the camps that we organized in Egypt. One of them is We Are All One. There were young people from different nationalities, Syrian, Yemeni, Sudanese, and some African nationalities, and Egyptians, in order to integrate those people in our societies. And because we are fighting stigmatization of these people in our country. Now, what are the strengths of YPR in Egypt? As I said, our strong points, one of our strong points is the interactive theater, sports, and some in the classroom activities. In addition, we did surveys on the female genital circumcision, FGM, mutilation, excuse me, in Egypt. We also did sign language videos in order to launch specific campaigns on this matter. We also have sign language awareness raising videos in different parts of Egypt, including in northern Sinai. And as you see, as you know, we have a center on the peer training. It is based in Asyut, which is actually our head office. Last, what does YPeer do in Egypt? Let me tell you that when I took part in the forum in 2013 in Asila, I was representing YPeer, so I could not enter the forum without introducing what YPeer does in Egypt. So what we did is reach a number of recommendations as part of that forum, and I hope to be able to share those with you on the last day. But one of the most important outputs or recommendations that we reach is that we need to promote Resolution 2225, which was issued by the Security Council in 2015. And all the team members actually then expressed that recommendation. So this resolution talks about the role of the youth in promoting peace and justice for all. Thank you very much. That was all from me. SDGs should help contribute to making the youth a tool in building their future rather than in making peace. Thank you very much, and peace to all. Thank you.
شكرا لك. شكرا جزيلا على هالمداخلة.
Thank you very much for this presentation. It's really interesting whenever we hear about peace, because we are all yearning for peace in our homes and in our countries. I now give the floor to Hiba Gandour. You are a medicine student, and you are the liaison officer between the medicine faculty and international organizations. I would like to commend you because you are in your last year of medicine and you are still activist in several international organizations. You represent more than 1 million medicine students in the region, and you work on issues pertaining to human rights, the health of children and refugees, and you advocate
منع أسلحة
against the proliferation of nuclear weapons, as well as anything that may impede peace and regional international peace. You have a special interest in surgery, medical surgery, of course. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Governments in the Middle East and North African region spend an average of 8% of their national budget on healthcare. This means that households in the region end up paying the difference out of pocket.
إذن في منطقة الشرق الأوسط الشباب يشكلون نسبة كبيرة من السكان، وبالتالي هناك حاجة إلى مناصرة من أجل حقوق هؤلاء الشباب. اسمي هبة غندور، وأنا ضابط الارتباط من أجل حقوق الإنسان في رابطة طلاب الطب. دعوني أتحدث إليكم عن اتحاد طلاب الطب. نحن نمثل أكثر من 1.5 مليون طالب، ونعمل مع لجان مختلفة، منها مسائل مثل حقوق الإنسان، الصحة، السلام، الصحة وغيرها من المواضيع. إذا هذه المواضيع تكون موائمة لاحتياجات كل المنطقة، ونحن نتحدث عن منطقة شرق المتوسط. طريقة عملنا تستند إلى تمكين الشباب وتحقيق مشاركتهم الفعالة، ورغم الجهود المتزايدة من أجل الحصول على مشاركة أفضل للشباب من أجل تأمين إمكانية الوصول إلى الخدمات الصحية، ما زالت هناك تحديات نواجهها. أولاً، نحن نشارك في الكثير من المؤتمرات والاجتماعات، إلا أن إدماج توصياتنا في البروتوكولات هو عدم إدماج توصياتنا هو من المشاكل التي نواجهها. وكذلك كما تعرفون المنطقة هذه فيها بيئة سياسية غير مستقرة، إضافة إلى مشاكل جهوزية في عدم الجهوزية للكوارث الطبيعية وغيرها. لذلك هناك الكثير من الأطباء أو طلاب الطب الذين يغادرون المنطقة للبحث عن فرص اقتصادية أفضل في الخارج، ولكن لدينا أيضا الكثير من طلاب اللجوء واللاجئين بسبب هذه المشاكل السياسية. مشكلة أخرى هي تمويل النظام الصحي. حكوماتنا تنفق أقل بكثير من المعدل الموصى به على المجال الصحي. لذلك مشكلة أساسية نواجهها هي الوصول إلى رعاية صحية الشاملة. هناك أيضا مشاكل لوجستية وصحية، منها إمكانية الوصول إلى الخدمات الصحية حول الصحة التناسلية، بالإضافة إلى كون بعض المواضيع ما زالت تعتبر من المحرمات كوهب الأعضاء أو أيضا الممارسات الجنسية الآمنة وغيرها، وأيضا موضوع نقص المناعة المكتسبة أو فيروس الإيدز. إذا بالنظر إلى كل هذه التحديات سوف أطلعكم على مثل تم القيام به، وهو يشكل ممارسة من الممارسات الجيدة. لدينا تدريب يسمى الصحة والخطر، وهو تدريب على الإنترنت بالتعاون مع جامعة جنيف، وهو تدريب من ند إلى ند أو تدريب النظراء. نناقش فيه المخاطر التي يواجهها عالم الرعاية الصحية وكيفية مواجهتها. كذلك نعمل على تدريب المدربين لتدريب الطلاب حول المواضيع الجنسية، لأنها من المواضيع الحساسة. كذلك لدينا أي نشاطات نقوم بها مع مخيمات اللاجئين. نقدم خدمات طبية مجانية، حيث يستطيع اللاجئون أن يقصدوا أو يزوروا الطبيب للحصول على استشارة طبية مجانية، والهدف يكون تأمين خدمات صحية لأشخاص بحاجة إلى الخدمات ولكن لا يستطيعون دفع ثمنها. كذلك نحن في عملنا يجب أن نركز على أن طلاب الطب في المستقبل يستطيعون المشاركة في صنع السياسات الطبية على المستوى الوطني. نطلق أيضا حملات توعية حول أهمية وهب الأعضاء، وحول أهمية وجود خدمات الرعاية الصحية، وحول استخدام المضادات الحيوية. من الممارسات الجيدة التي نجحنا فيها هي الوثائق حول السياسات، وهي نستخدمها من أجل المناصرة. مثلا نعبر عن موقف الاتحاد الدولي فيما يتعلق بالصحة، السلامة الصحية، ونناصر من أجل قضايا اجتماعية منها المجتمع المدني. نناصر ضد استخدام الأسلحة النووية واستشارتها، ونعتمد على المشاورات الواسعة النطاق. كذلك قمنا في التوصل إلى إعلان حول حقوق العمال الأجانب، وكذلك على أهمية منح هؤلاء حقوقهم الطبية والصحية. ونحن نعمل حاليا مع جهات مختلفة من أجل المناصرة لأجل هذا الموضوع. كذلك نتعاون مع منظمات طلابية أخرى في أيام طبية محددة، مع طلاب التمريض، طلاب طب الأسنان، وطلاب علم النفس، لتنظيم نشاطات مشتركة. قبل أن أختتم أود أن أشارككم بعض التوصيات التي نعتبرها مهمة وقد تشكل حلولا مستدامة لهذه التحديات. الاستثمار في الشباب هو أفضل مورد لدى هذه المنطقة، ويجب القيام بذلك من خلال إشراك والأخذ بعين الاعتبار آراء الشباب وبناء قدراتهم كقادة مستقبليين قادرين على المشاركة بشكل فعال في المجال السياسي والدبلوماسي. أخيرا، آمنوا بنا، نحن هنا لإحداث تغيير، لتحقيق التغيير ولإحداث فرق في حياة الناس. فيما يتعلق بتحدي الهجرة، العهد الدولي حول الهجرة الآمنة، هناك عدد من الآليات لبناء القدرات تسمح للحكومات بتنظيم نشاطات الهجرة، وهذه الأمور وهذه الآليات يجب أن تكون متكيفة مع واقعنا الوطني، ويجب أن يكون هناك تعاون ما بين الحكومات والمنظمات غير الحكومية للاستفادة من الهجرة واستغلالها بالطريقة المناسبة. التمويل، ما نحتاج إليه هو تمويل للقطاع الطبي وللأبحاث الطبية والقطاع الصحي وقطاع الهندسة. يجب أن نتمكن من تمويل الخدمات الطبية والقطاع الطبي بدون التأثير على الميزانية الوطنية. يجب أيضا أن نرفع وعي الشباب حول هذه المواضيع، ويجب أن نضع حدا للوصمات لكي نسمح للشباب وللاختصاصيين من الشباب بالوصول إلى خدمات الرعاية الصحية. يوم العالمي للصحة كان احتفل به منذ يومين. إذن نحن مسؤولون عن محاسبة مرتكبي الجرائم بحق الشباب، وكذلك يجب تنفيذ القرار الصادر عن مجلس الأمن رقم 225 بغض النظر عن النوع الاجتماعي والدخل والسن والإعاقة أو المرض. نحن كمهنيين في المجال الطبي ننقذ الأرواح من خلال معالجة الأمراض والوقاية منها على مستوى المجتمع وعلى مستوى الأفراد، وهذا ليس ممكنا إلا من خلال إقامة الشراكات. شكرا جزيلا على حسن إصغائكم.
Thank you for your intervention. عندي كتير أسئلة بس حاليا بعتقد
I have so many questions, but let me give the floor to Mr. Fuad Al-Aouni. You are the Director General of the Youth Laboratory at the Tunisian Ministry for Youth and Sports. You were really interested in listening to the presentation of Hagar and Hiba on the issue of peace, security, health, and the dignified living of individuals. So what do you have to say about what the ladies have suggested? And how do you view their recommendations or the solution that they suggested for these challenges that they highlighted? Thank you, Leticia. I would like to thank ESQA and its partners for inviting me to this event. And thank you for inviting me to take part in this session titled Ensuring Sustainable Engagement of Adolescents and Youth in the Arab Region. I'm very happy to listen to these young people present with us here. But we cannot talk about sustainable development without mentioning the youth. The youth is the only guarantor of sustainable development. The youth provides an opportunity and a challenge at the same time. An opportunity because it is the highest percentage of the population, and a challenge because it can, an opportunity because it can use modern technology and modernity, and it is the most capable of innovation, of innovating solutions. But this does not mean that the young people of today are not vulnerable. Vulnerability is multidimensional. It has to do with the marginalization at 4 levels: political, social, cultural, economic marginalization or exclusion. So we know that unemployment affects the youth the most, especially young females. We see new behaviors emerging among the youth, drug and alcohol consumption, sexually transmitted diseases, violence in the midst of the young people, engagement in extremist and violent extremism. All of this indicates a high level of vulnerability. Abdel Aziz raised an important point. How can we eliminate obstacles to youth engagement and participation? Especially those young people who are not enrolled in education or training or in employment. In Tunisia, we have 1 million similar young people. So out of 3 million, we have 1 million, which is nearly half of such young people who are not enrolled in any education or work or training. I will not delve into further details here because this would require another session or another workshop to discuss with you the Tunisian model. So we will leave that for another time or for tomorrow. But the problem lies in finding inclusive policies for the youth, inclusive of all sectors, of all governments and non-governmental structures, as well as the private sectors, and namely inclusive of all young people themselves. We cannot talk about an inclusive process for the youth without actually engaging the youth themselves in this process in an effective manner, in planning these policies, national and regional policies for the young people. So the decision makers and the decision makers and politicians need to live up to the expectations of the young people. How? By recognizing the real role and potential of young people, of the youth, by giving them, by holding the young people accountable, or by giving them full responsibility, by putting them in key positions. And we cannot actually give these young people responsibilities without actually supporting young people's independence and empowerment. And this begins in the family, in the school, and extends to the media and to civil society structures and so on. Furthermore, we must support the young people's participation in civil society matters and political matters. We need to enable them to reach decision-making powers. We need to provide them with mentoring, with support. We need to promote their sense of belonging. And by this, we would be resisting what we know as violent extremism, because violent extremism only happens when young people lose their trust in the institutions, after young people feel like they do not belong to their state, to their society, to their institutions, to their communities. Why? Because of this patriarchal approach that the adults apply on those youth. So they make them feel excluded and marginalized and really sidelined when it comes to participation at all levels. Efforts are also needed to increase opportunities for dialogue, for the exchange of opinions and points of views between the young people, the youth themselves, and between them and the decision makers and politicians. Just like we heard in the experiences we learned about this morning. Those interested in youth matters must be innovative in creating new approaches and engaging the youth. So we need innovation in our educational curricula and our programs as well that target the youth. All of what I'm sharing with you are lessons learned from previous experiences and ideas shared earlier today. We must give a voice to the marginalized youth, the unintegrated youth, the youth who are unable to integrate the local community, especially in remote areas that are subject to a great deal of exclusion and marginalization. And at the end, you must not forget the importance of family in the upbringing of young people anywhere. I wish to reaffirm the importance of finding comprehensive and accurate data on the youth in the Arab region. We must launch surveys and mappings of the youth in the Arab region, because this is key if we are to elaborate sound policies that work in favor of the engagement of the youth and that would respond to their needs. Once again, I would like to thank the young people who stood up today and shared with us their presentations. Thank you very much. I give it back to you.
شكرا جزيلا
Thank you very much. Before giving the floor to the audience, I have to see the opportunity of having two people around me from Tunisia, a young person and another one from the ministry. And I felt that there is some harmony in what you were both saying. So maybe there are solutions to be found for these problems. But where are these solutions? The young people are asking for these solutions, and you, as a representative of the ministry taking care of the youth, you believe in these solutions. So where are these solutions? We talk about them, but are they being implemented? Is the youth feeling that there is a progress of any kind? Or are we just still at the level of theories, or maybe all these words are still only on paper? So to which extent will you really take into consideration all these statements made by the youth? So the floor is yours, to any one of you. Actually, do you want us to speak about common problems? What is it that you want? You were both speaking of the same solutions. In case these solutions exist, and I think they exist, why are you still looking for their implementation in case they're already validated by the government? I will clarify this. We have elections by the end of the year, and then the Tunisian youth will be everywhere. We'll see the youth at the platforms and the debates until the elections. But then afterwards, we won't see anything after the elections. In the past 5 years, there were some consultations with youth all over the country, and there was an official consultation with the ministry and another one with the civil society that considered that what was done by the ministry is not really representative. However, excuse me, the speaker is saying. So it's not just about consulting with me or to ask me about my opinion. It's about us deciding what we want to do. Being a young person, I can be also responsible for what I'm saying. I'm responsible for my thoughts, for my activities, for my actions. I'm also responsible for the development or the way of the development should be, as I see it myself. Now, of course, I do not represent all the Tunisian youth. I'm speaking here in my name, but I would really like if one of the politicians or if one political party would really take this into consideration and would attempt to give the opportunity to a young person to present their ideas. Actually, maybe one political party needs to start implementing and executing the ideas of the youth and not just listening to them. And the decision makers who have always been decision makers will not only decide what they think is better for the future of the youth. So I think we have the same solutions. After the consultations, we can hear of thousands of solutions, but who will decide after all? He will answer you. Thank you for your answer. So what do you think? What do you think of his answer? Will it stop at the level of the consultations? I said we need to put an end to the patriarchal approach. There is, of course, we agree, and I agree with him almost with everything that he said, almost everything. And some always heard about different themes, different topics, but nothing was implemented. And everyone wants, of course, to draw the youth to them before the elections. It's true. And there were mechanisms for the engagement of the youth, but it's not enough. Because the level of trust in the public institutions is not high. And also participation in the public sphere in general is not that high. Why? Because of the lack of trust. So we need to extract the solutions. The social dialogue that happened in 2016 in Tunisia, and then afterwards what happened with the civil society showed a great dynamics. The landscape was very nice. Even the government was engaged in that. But what was the result after the conference? All the systems are intertwined. Like, for example, even the education, the training, and entering the labor market, all of this impacted the behaviors of the youth and the policy that was made by the government, which led us at the end to violence and to extremist violence. So all the systems are interfering with each other. This is why we need a harmonious policy for the youth. This is what should happen, and this is what we desire. But it is a long process, what we're speaking about, and this process could take more than 6, 7, or 8 months of work with the different stakeholders, the youth, the national organizations, and the political parties. Yes, now we are in the pre-election phase, and we have conducted a policy-oriented survey that was addressing the first step, that is political building or policy building. So it's to work with the youth with regard to different themes: youth and security, youth and social engagement, youth and employment. And we also discussed with them the solutions, how to build the different policies, how to put the different procedures that should be taken into consideration. This is only the first step. So I agree with him, but within the same approach that is based on the youth rights of real engagement, and at the level of the leadership in the Ministry of the Youth and Sports Affairs, I can tell you that at the level of the ministry now we have more youth, so that we feel very closer to what the youth needs, so that they would have the right for real participation, for real engagement, so that we could be in decision-making positions, of course. Thank you very much. Microphone, yes. Now I seized the opportunity of having both the speakers from Tunisia, but of course the situation is similar in other Arab countries. But also in some countries, they don't even listen to what the youth wants. I will take some of your questions. Yes, please. What have I done? What have I done? Okay. To answer Abdelaziz's question, I'm Aruna Banabas. I'm a member of parliament from Tunisia. So the decision-making positions exist, and they even exist in the electoral laws in Tunisia. Because for the parliament, the electoral law says that the third position should be given to a young person, so we have a dozen of young persons in the parliament from the different parties, but we have done even more than that in the municipal election law, and this position is given also in the municipal councils. So at the level of the participation and the power, there is even a legislation in this regard. So the youth should also be patient a little bit, because things are happening and we are offering for them positions at the level of decision making and within power, and authority. So we are encouraging them to do so. Thank you. This is already good, and we hope that this will spread all over the region and the Arab governments and parliaments. Thank you. So I will take a round of questions, then afterwards we will listen to the answers. Yes, please. Please, everyone, use the microphones so that we can translate. Thank you. I'm from Tunisia, Director General in the Ministry of Development. Abdelaziz, about the consultations and the surveys that were done under the development plan, I need to tell you, since I come from a decision-making position, microphone is off. So we found that the needs were different. Microphone. So we found different needs in the different areas of the country and different priorities. And the budget, after all, is not enough to conduct surveys that cover all the youth. So we took into consideration the priorities of the needs that were the most urgent. Now, of course, the persons or the youth that are the most marginalized do not have the same priorities as the other youth have. And I would like to give you an indicator. The 35% of the seats in the last municipal elections were given to the youth. Thank you. Microphone, please. Yes? Did you have a question? Okay. The problem is that I'm also Tunisian. Yeah, we have a lot of Tunisians in the room, so maybe, but I will speak about the Arab region in general. First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers, because every time we hear the youth, we discover new things. Yes, I'm also a young person. You put yourselves in their shoes. You put yourself in a specific framework. I'm still young. No, really. No. We have this feeling, and it was confirmed through the studies. There are two different worlds, even at the level of the terminology. Maybe the youth that deliver their presentations today represent an elite, a rare elite of the youth, but we have a lot of different youth. They have different needs, and there are different frameworks of movement. And sometimes it's not within parties, it comes from other social movements, sometimes from the social media that we know nothing about compared to the others. So there is an essential point here. Despite all the surveys that we adopted in the Arab countries to consult with the youth, or what is called as consultations with the youth, we used closed questions, and this is not enough. This does not lead to policies that are really underpinned by the opinions of these adolescents and youth. We are speaking on behalf of them, about them, but we are not speaking to them. This is a very important point. Second, there are specificities for this age category because it's always reshaping itself. It's building itself at the cultural level. It's a social and the cultural building. And it's not that it's vulnerable. They always have this motivation or this dynamism. So whenever it is about to address one of their issues, one of their causes, then it affects all the youth with no exception. The third issue, and this was one of the findings of the surveys before the elections, before the municipal elections, and here we had a lot of youth that participated in the elections as candidates, and this wasn't studied until now, but in the study before the municipal elections, although we spoke a lot about democratic participation over the TV channels and the parliament, when the youth were asked about this term, democratic participation, this was ambiguous for them. And more than 30% of them said that they've never heard of it. So look at this great gap between what we use as terms and what the youth can use. So this is a complex issue, and I don't think that one session is enough to discuss it, but these are not just figures. Even the numbers require us to give this more attention and not to say we are 60% or 6% of our people are young people. Or there is a study that says that a lot of young people want to immigrate, whether formally or informally. So there is a certain way that was used to destabilize the belonging of this youth to their countries. So we need to reconsider this structural issue that made these young people want to leave their country instead of working for its future. Thank you. I will take one more question, then move to the answers, and then we will have another round of questions. One of you, please. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Leana Dani. I'm in charge of communication in the Youth Bridge Association. Please give me some time because I want to comment different points that were raised by my colleagues and people who are my age, and I'm really proud of your initiatives and what you presented in here. First of all, I want to comment the message of the UN Special Envoy. It's true that we need to have a platform for the youth so that they can prove themselves and participate in decision-making. But unfortunately, as you can see here, we're discussing youth issues in a side event. Personally, I think this should have happened in the plenary session with the decision-makers themselves, so that the youth interventions would be more respected and more appreciated. And then they would really voice their demands and their opinions. Concerning the educational reforms that were discussed by our colleague from Tunisia, and he also spoke about the different curricula and how they should be changed. Also, the minister spoke about this. In our association, we work on 3 specific components: leadership, peace building, and how the youth can be international citizens or world citizens and not just citizens from their country. So we worked on the UN Security Council resolution. And it is very important to know that this was the first document that spoke about engaging the youth in decision-making. So this is quite essential. How can they be the world citizens? For example, in the Arab world, we're all facing similar problems. So we need to sit all together and try to find common solutions to these problems. In leadership learning, unfortunately, the youth have different definition for leadership. They think that the leaders are only the people who are in power, but it's not true because, for example, the young people that now presented their initiatives are leaders themselves. So we need to work on self-development in schools and in universities. Also about the youth initiatives in Tunisia, and they're quite important. I was in different conferences and they spoke about the youth government in Alcantara region. This is very important, and I think this is an example we need to follow in our other Arab countries. Thank you. Thank you for your intervention. I will give some time for the youth and for Mr. Aouni to answer the questions, and then we will take another quick round of questions. Please be quick. Thank you for all your questions. I will start from the status of the youth based on the figures that I've seen on the different websites, the number of youth in the government. Let's start with the government. And when I say youth, it's someone between 15 and 34 years old. 15 and 34. Let's say even to 35 years old. There is only one young person in the government. It's a lady. And the parliament, we have 217 MPs. 9 among them are young, so it's 4%. If we were to add 4 more who are 35 years old, so then it's 6%. And if you consider that the Tunisian youth that constitute 1/3 of the population, so they're not really represented in the parliament and they're not represented in the government. I will move to what was said concerning the priorities. I don't like this discourse of exclusion. When I say that there are priorities, yes, of course there are priorities, and yes, there are consultations, but there are no laws concerning the surveys that were done. So it's not really legitimate. But even with the statistics, even with the consultations, you say that there are priorities. Who will decide of these priorities? Who can decide of these priorities? It shouldn't be you. It shouldn't be me. It should be the youth policy. And it should be a public youth policy that is transversal and inclusive. I'm not attacking your role, but I'm just saying that this is not the ministry, and these are not the politicians that are now currently politicians that will solve this. It's not up to them to decide for this. Yes, it's the Ministry of the Youth and Sports, but not the minister himself or herself. It's the policy that should decide that, the public youth policy. But then it is another debate. It is a wider debate. So I just wanted to give my observations regarding these 2 points. Thank you, Abdelaziz. Does anyone want to answer any of the questions that were asked, Muhammad? Yes, please. لدي تعليق واحد. أحببت كثيرا عندما قلت أن المشاورة يجب تكون مع الشباب وليس عن الشباب، وأعلن أن نكون أيضا في حضور صانعي القرارات. نحن نأتي دوما إلى هذه الفعاليات ويكون لدينا فعاليات جانبية حول الشباب، ولكن سؤالي هو بعد أن نغادر ورشات العمل هذه أو هذه الفعالية الجانبية ما الذي سيحصل؟ لما لا نناقش مع بعضنا بعض طريقة للمضي قدما؟ ما الذي يمكن أن نفعله ومن الذي يتحمل مسؤولية ذلك؟ نريد فقط أن نتشاطر مشاعرنا وأحاسيسنا، نريد ما هو أكثر من ذلك. هذا هو تعليقي. شكرا. Thank you, Hiba. I have 2 observations about what you said. I'm a young person just like you are, so I have 2 different statistics about Egypt. You were speaking about how education can impact the youth. The first statistics was about the population in 2018. The young persons between 18 and 29 years old constituted 21% of the population in Egypt. And they're illiterate. And in 2017, we had other statistics about the dropouts. So about the dropouts, and it's 10%. And this impacts extremism or puts the youth at the risk of being drawn by extremism. And this is what we were working on in our network in Egypt. So we had different drama trainings in schools and universities and with a telecommunication company in Egypt so that we can train the teachers on new ways of teaching. And this is what we have discussed under the health issue and how this can impact their lives and their health if they took information from non-reliable sources. And as I said, we are more than 45,000 at the level of the Republic, so we have started working with different ministries, the Ministry of Higher Education, and we started doing these camps. In the Arab region, and Ta'sila, we were working on advocacy, and yes, it's true, we need to present this to the decision makers, or we need to be with them. This is why, once again, we reaffirm that we need to mix the decision makers with the youth. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, our time's up. But if you want, we can continue with the session and have another round of questions. So, I'm Mohammed Mkayis from the UNESCO Network for Sustainable Education. About reducing inequalities and Goal 10, I think this can be achieved when we have 60% of youth in the main hall, because this is the percentage that we have in the Arab world. And I can tell you that we do not represent more than 5% now. This is my first point. Second, in the Arab world, if an Arab young person wants to go to a conference and to get a visa to go there, they will face many problems. So how can we enable the youth while we cannot even give them the opportunities to develop their knowledge and their experience? And obtaining a Schengen visa sometimes is easier than getting a visa to an Arab country. I would like to speak about something related to Syria, and it's the economic sanctions. Economic sanctions do not impact the warlords or the politicians. It only impacts the people. I don't know if you knew this piece of information, but if you go to the big education websites, and if we're from Syria and we want to go study there, these sites are blocked because we are Syrians. So how can you speak about sustainable development for the youth while we're hindering them from accessing all needed opportunities? Also, what's very important is that if we were to look at the different experiences in Syria and Yemen and Lebanon, and I'm speaking here about different wars and conflicts, what made our countries resilient is the youth. Because we spoke to different CSOs, different NGOs about the number of volunteers. These were the youth volunteers that were helping in this regard. And until now, it's the youth that is working with the civil society. If we really want to achieve the SDGs, we need to engage more youth. Now we have the problem of the data. If we do not engage the youth, or actually I can tell you that if in 1 year only we have more youth participating than all the statistics in the Arab world will change. If we engage the youth in getting us the data, this will happen. But unfortunately, we don't have this engagement of the youth, or we have an inefficient participation where the youth is only being listened to, but there is no actions afterwards. We really demand to have more actions and not just to listen to you without any implementation. We also want to be decision makers. We don't just want you to listen to us because we constitute the bigger share. Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you.
بسرعة please.
Sure. أنا مروة من قسم خفض الكوارث الطبيعية، أنها مجموعة خاضعة للأمم المتحدة. أشكركم على هذا النقاش المثمر والشيق. لدي بعض الأسئلة التي أود أن أوجهها إلى كل المتحدثين، لا سيما هبة. ما هي أفضل الممارسات برأيك؟ كيف تمكنتم من تحقيق التمويل المستدام؟ فمن أبرز العقبات التي نواجهها هي التمويل والحصول على الموارد التي نحن بحاجة إليها للتخلص من القيود المفروضة أحيانا علينا وللبدء بعمليات التنفيذ. فيما يتعلق بمجموعات الشباب المشاركة، برأيك كيف يمكن أن نفعل دور الشراكة والتفاعل والتواصل الفعال للحرص على أننا جميعا نعمل على تحقيق نفس غايات أو أهداف التنمية المستدامة؟ سوف أكون أختصر. إذا أنا أريد أن أجيب عن تعليق القائل بأن الشباب يجب أن يكونوا المكون الأساسي في القاعة الرئيسية. كما تعرفون، العام الماضي في المنتدى الذي انعقد في أسايلم، وهذا كان هناك منتدى للشباب في أصيلة، وهذا العام سوف ينعقد في تونس. لذلك من المهم أن نستفيد كيف تمكنت تونس من إدماج أصوات الشباب في عالم صنع القرارات والسياسة. إذا منتدى الشباب في اليوم الثالث منه سوف يقوم بتقديم توصياتهم إلى صناع القرار، وسوف يكون هناك إطار للمحاسبة للحرص على أن هذا لن يقتصر على مجرد كلام، بل أنه سوف يكون هناك متابعة. إذا تاريخ انعقاد المنتدى هو من 20 إلى 22 من أغسطس آب المقبل. هناك معلومات متوفرة على موقع الأمم المتحدة حول هذا المنتدى، منتدى الشباب. I would like to thank Abdulaziz, Mohammed, Hiba and Hajar for sharing their successful experiences. What they both lamented is that they have poor budgets allocated by their governments. And somebody mentioned that there's a difference between in the quality of the public education versus the private education. So people or children or youth spend years in education while the quality of that education is not great. And another colleague said that the budget allocated for health issues is low. Vaccination, reproductive health, maternal mortality, and so on. All of these are tragedies resulting or emanating from the poor budgets allocated for these priorities. So there is a great disparity in the points of views of the state and the young people. What's happening in Sudan is the same as what's happening in Tunisia and other countries. We need partnerships between the associations of medicine faculties across the Arab countries. So we need them to communicate, to connect, in order to send recommendations to regional organizations such as the League of Arab States and other UN regional platforms such as UNICEF. Because as you know, that the minute the youth take to the streets, they protest because they want sports. So the youth needs to be engaged in more issues than sports and social activities. The Arab youth need to be engaged at the political level, economic level. They need to be empowered and enabled. They need to be empowered locally and nationally in their own countries. This is why we need to establish common platforms between all these universities and faculties, and to make our voices heard to all decision makers. Last question before we hear the last round of answers. It's not a question, it's just a comment. The dialogue or the discussion that we witnessed between a number of Tunisian young people and officials, we saw that it was actually flawed because there is a miscommunication, there is suspicion. The young people call into question the authority of the authority, and the authorities do not trust the young people. And if there's no trust, there's no discussion, there's no debate. Yes, there is a conversation. However, this conversation is not constructive. I think that what you just said is extremely important. Also, we need to remember that it's normal between the two. We need to view young people and the youth as an investment, because if we do not do that in our Arab world, we will lose even more than we already did. We are losing our young people to migration. We are losing also our young people's identity and integration as well. So we need to give them all the opportunities necessary to guarantee their success. As some said, we need to not only to give recommendations, but to do an effective follow-up later. Everything is interrelated, whether it's education, or facilitating access to job opportunities and so on. And I wish to say something to the youth. Today, you have more opportunities in this day and age than we did in the past as young people. You are the click generation. What you do is check out a page, then if you don't like it, click next. But I urge you to be patient, to take things slowly, to give things their time, their natural course and time. Bear in mind that the world will not change overnight, and things will not change overnight.
جزيلا. رح ناخد الأجوبة.
We shall hear the answers now, and then we wrap it up.
طولنا عليكم نعتذر.
Sorry for keeping you here after hours. Who would like to start? سأجيبك على سؤالك أولا فيما يتعلق بتأمين التمويل المستدام. هذا سؤال ممتاز، لا سيما في ما يتعلق بما ذكرته سابقا. نحن كشباب نريد أن ينظر إلينا كمهنيين ومحترفين شباب. نريد أن نسمع أصواتنا. لكي نؤخذ على محمل الجد يجب أن نثبت وجودنا، ولكي نثبت وجودنا يجب أن نتمكن من الحصول على بناء للقدرات. لذلك نحن نستثمر في أعضائنا من خلال إخضاعهم الكثير من التدريبات، وهذه التدريبات نحن نعمل على تحسينها، ونحاول الحصول على مشورة من جهات خارجية لتحسين هذه التدريبات. وبعدها نبدأ بتقديم الطلبات من أجل الحصول على تمويل لهذه التدريبات. يتم تدريب الأشخاص وبعدها يتمكنون من تقديم طلبات للمنح الدراسية وإلى ما هنالك. إذن كلما استثمرنا في بناء قدرات أعضائنا، كلما مكناهم من تمويل أنفسهم بأنفسهم من خلال تمويل أو تقديم طلبات للحصول على منح دراسية وغيرها. كذلك أردت أن أتحدث عن عن فكرة أو ضرورة إقامة التدريب داخل البلد للشباب. أنا طالبة في الطب وسوف أتخصص في العام المقبل. الحكومة في لبنان لم تبذل الكثير من الجهود لتقنعني بأنني يجب أن أبقى في لبنان. أنا أطالب بتغييرات بتدريبات أفضل، ولكن لا شيء يبقيني. إذا التغييرات التي تحصل ببطء، والتغييرات كما قلنا تحصل ببطء بسبب القيود والبيئة السياسية الهشة التي نعيش فيها والحروب بالوكالة في المنطقة وإلى ما هنالك. كل هذا ينعكس علينا. الشباب الذين تحدثت إليهم لا يملكوا أي ثقة في النظام الذي نعمل في ظله. كذلك لدى شبابنا نقص في الصبر. نحن شباب مثيرون للاهتمام من الناحية النفسية، ولذلك من المهم جدا أن نجري حوارات مع الأجيال الأكبر منا لكي نتحدث عن المشاكل التي ورثناها أثناء فترة نمونا وطفولتنا. هل من تعليقات؟ Are there any further comments؟ أود أن أتحدث عن نشاط آخر حول في الشرق الأوسط واسمه شباب الشرق الأوسط. سوف ينعقد في هذا الشهر في 24 و25 من نيسان في تونس أيضا إن كنتم مهتمين. Thank you very much to all those who attended this session. Abdulaziz, Muhammad, Hiba, Hagar, and Fuad, thank you for your attention.